The city hums outside Aiko's window. Neon signs flicker through thin curtains, while her phone glows beside an open textbook. The clock's ticking feels louder than her heartbeat. She's 17, but her thoughts feel like tangled wires. Grades, messages, worries, and the endless scroll of notifications. "Focus," she whispers, but her eyes drift back to the screen. The night deepens, and with every passing minute, her mind grows heavier. She longs for silence, but doesn't know where to find it. Her mother's soft footsteps echo down the hallway. Even that sound makes her chest tighten. In this restless storm, she feels small, suspended between what she wants to do and what she can't seem to begin. In that fragile stillness before dawn, she looks out the window at the distant mountains and wonders if peace truly exists anywhere beyond her thoughts. The next morning, Aiko sits in her classroom, surrounded by voices that blend into static. Her teacher's words float past her ears, but her mind drifts elsewhere, toward the glowing phone in her bag, toward everything unfinished. Notes blur on the board, and she feels herself slipping into the quiet panic that hides behind her smile. At lunch, friends laugh about exams, but their voices sound far away. She wonders why others seem to focus so easily, while her thoughts scatter like leaves in the wind. When the bell rings, she stays behind for a moment, staring at her empty notebook. There's a whisper of longing in her chest, not for success, but for peace. She folds her hands, breathes in, and for the first time, admits to herself that she's lost control of her mind. That evening, Aiko walks home beneath the dim glow of street lamps. The rain has stopped, but puddles mirror the city lights. She feels the hum of life around her. Cars, voices, advertisements, all demanding attention. Her fingers brush her phone, tempted again to escape into the digital tide. Yet inside, a quiet exhaustion grows heavier than the weight of her school bag. She remembers the mountains she saw that dawn, a whispering calm beyond the noise. Her uncle, a monk she barely knows, lives in a temple there. The idea feels absurd. Running away to silence, but also strangely right. Maybe peace isn't found in doing more, but in letting go. She looks up at the stars barely visible through clouds, and for the first time, she doesn't open her phone. She just breathes. Days later, Aiko stands before the old wooden gates of the mountain temple. The air smells of pine and rain. She hesitates. Her city shoes sink slightly into the wet earth. Out of place among stone paths and moss, the silence feels alive here, filled with unseen movement, wind, water, breath. A monk opens the gate. His presence is gentle, his eyes calm, like still water. "You've come far," he says simply. She bows awkwardly. "I need to learn to focus," she confesses. The monk nods, not as teacher to student, but as one soul recognizing another's struggle. "Then learn first to see," he replies, stepping aside to let her in. The sound of a bell echoes faintly from within, as if calling her home to herself. The temple courtyard hums with quiet life. Wind chimes ring softly. Monks move silently, sweeping fallen leaves with measured rhythm. Aiko follows Master Ryozan to a small guest room. Tatami mats creak beneath her steps. She sets down her phone, uncertain, as if leaving behind part of herself. "Why do I lose focus so easily?" she finally asks. Ryozan pours tea before answering. "Because your mind is chasing what isn't here." He gestures to the steaming cup. "When you drink tea, just drink tea. When you study, just study," Aiko frowns. "But that sounds too simple." The monk smiles faintly. "Then begin with simple things. Simplicity is not small. It is clear." Outside, the temple bell rings again, its sound flowing through her chest like a slow, awakening breath. Before dawn, a bell echoes through the valley. Aiko wakes to the faint shimmer of mist beyond her paper window. The air feels alive, pure, and new. She sits up slowly, unsure if she's still dreaming. From outside, the monk's soft footsteps sweep across the courtyard, steady as a heartbeat. For the first time in a long while, her morning doesn't begin with an alarm or a message. She follows the sound of the bell and finds herself standing beneath pale blue light. Master Ryozan waits by the meditation hall, silent. "Come," he says. His voice is calm, unhurried. Inside, candles flicker beside cushions arranged in perfect rows. The stillness feels both heavy and comforting, like the world itself is holding its breath. Aiko kneels on the meditation cushion. The hall is still, save for the soft rustle of robes. The bell rings once, deep and resonant, like time slowing down. She tries to focus on her breath, but her thoughts scatter instantly. Homework, friends, exams, the noise of her city life. Her back aches, her knees tingle. The silence feels unbearable. She opens her eyes, glancing at Ryozan seated nearby, perfectly motionless. His eyes are closed, his face soft yet alert, as if listening to something far beyond the silence itself. She lowers her gaze again, frustrated but curious. For the first time, she senses the space between her breaths. Fragile, real, and entirely new. After meditation, Aiko rubs her sore legs. Why does sitting still feel harder than studying? She asks quietly. Master Ryozan chuckles softly. Because your mind is a pond, he says. When it's stirred, you can't see your reflection. He pours water from a ladle into a basin. The ripples shimmer and fade. If you wait, he continues, the mud settles and clarity returns. Aiko watches, mesmerized. The surface smooths until it mirrors the morning light perfectly. She doesn't fully understand, but something inside her loosens. A recognition that her restlessness isn't failure, just movement waiting to still. At breakfast, the hall is filled with the gentle rhythm of eating in silence. Bowls of rice soup and pickled vegetables are placed neatly before each person. Every movement has purpose. Lifting the bowl, bowing in gratitude, chewing slowly. Aiko feels awkward at first, unsure how to move without words. But as she watches the monks, she feels something unexpected. Ease. The world slows down. The taste of simple rice feels vivid and alive. For the first time, her mind isn't wandering. It's here completely, with the warmth of the bowl in her hands. She understands, even without being told, that this too is meditation. After breakfast, Aiko steps outside into the courtyard. The mist has lifted, revealing sunlight dripping through pine branches. She breathes deeply. Everything, the stones, the birds, the wind, feels sharper, alive. Ryozan joins her, carrying a broom. You wish to learn focus? He asks. She nods. He hands her the broom. Then sweep. She laughs. Unsure if he's serious. Sweep with full attention, he adds, walking away. She begins hesitantly, each stroke awkward. But soon, the rhythm takes over. The sound of the broom against stone becomes music. Her thoughts quiet. Her breathing evens. Without realizing, she smiles. In the simple act of sweeping, she begins to understand the meaning of stillness in motion. The morning sun filters through the meditation hall. Aiko kneels before Master Ryozan, who places a single candle between them. You seek focus, he says. Then begin with the breath. He instructs her to count each inhalation, to follow its rise and fall as though watching waves on a calm shore. She closes her eyes, uncertain, then inhales softly. 1, 2, 3. Her chest rises and falls like a tide. At first, it feels simple, until her thoughts scatter again, like birds startled from stillness. She opens her eyes, disappointed. Ryozan only nods. When your mind wanders, he says, bring it back. Gently, not with force. She tries again and again. Somewhere between the breaths, The noise within her begins to fade. As the hours pass, the silence deepens. Aiko's knees ache, her mind rebels, and frustration rises like heat. "Why can't I stop thinking?" she whispers inwardly. The more she tries, the more thoughts come. Memories, worries, fragments of music, flashes of her old life. But something within begins to shift. She remembers Ryosen's words, "Don't fight the waves. Let them pass." So she stops struggling. She breathes, lets each thought appear and fade without resistance. Slowly, her body softens. For the first time, she feels the weight of her breath, not as effort, but as presence. The air moves through her like a slow river, and she realizes she's not failing, she's learning to see. After meditation, Aiko finds Ryosen outside beneath the temple's old pine tree. He listens to the wind through its branches, eyes closed. "Master," she asks, "what do you do when your mind refuses to be still?" He smiles. "I do not refuse it." She frowns, puzzled. He gestures toward the clouds drifting above. "See how they move." The sky does not chase them. It remains open, unchanged. Be the sky, not the cloud. Aiko looks up, watching the slow, effortless motion of the sky's endless breath. For the first time, she understands what it means to rest within awareness, to see thoughts without becoming them. That evening, Aiko sits by the temple pond. The water mirrors the fading light, ripples dancing gently. She breathes in rhythm with the wind, noticing how each breath feels different. Cool entering, warm leaving. She no longer counts. She simply follows. A dragonfly lands nearby, perfectly still despite the breeze. She feels as if the world is breathing with her. Ryosen's words echo within. The breath does not belong to you. It moves through all things. Her body relaxes, her mind softens, and for a fleeting moment she feels an immense stillness that isn't empty, but full, alive, infinite. When the night deepens, Ayuko returns to her room. She kneels by the window, listening to crickets and distant temple bells. Her mind, once restless, now feels spacious and clear. She realizes that time hasn't slowed. She has. Tomorrow's studies no longer seem like battles to win, but paths to walk with awareness. As she closes her eyes, she senses every sound, every heartbeat, every breath blending into stillness. She smiles faintly. Focus, she now understands, isn't about holding on. It's about letting go again and again, until only clarity remains. Morning light filters through rice paper walls as Aiko enters the small art hall. On the table lies a single sheet of white paper, a bamboo brush, and a bowl of black ink. Master Ryosen stands beside her, silent as ever. Today, he says, you will study with your hands. She looks at the brush uncertainly. Calligraphy, he nods. Each stroke is a thought made visible. If the mind trembles, so will the line. Aiko inhales deeply and kneels. The scent of ink fills the air, sharp and ancient. As she dips the brush, the world seems to narrow to one point, one breath. Yet her hand hesitates, already imagining mistakes. Ryosen watches quietly, saying nothing. The silence between them feels alive, waiting. Aiko dips the brush again, her hand trembling slightly. The ink spreads unevenly across the page, dark and uncontrolled. She frowns, feeling the familiar sting of failure. I can't do it, she says softly. Ryosen looks at the uneven strokes. The brush only shows what's already there, he replies. You are not drawing lines. You are revealing the movement of your mind. His words fall like stones into still water. She stares at the messy characters, realizing they mirror her thoughts. Scattered, impatient, restless. Then how do I change the lines? she asks. He smiles faintly. You don't change the lines. You change the mind, holding the brush. Ryozan fills a fresh bowl of ink and hands her the brush again. This time, he says, don't think of perfection. Think of breath. He demonstrates, lifting, breathing, pressing, releasing. The movement is fluid, almost invisible in its grace. The brush follows attention, he says, not desire. Aiko closes her eyes, breathes once, and begins. The brush glides smoother this time. Each stroke feels like an exhale, alive but calm. She stops mid-motion, surprised by the stillness in her chest. Ryozan nods approvingly. Now, he whispers, you are beginning to see the sound of silence. Hours pass unnoticed. Aiko's strokes grow slower, cleaner, quieter. Each movement feels connected to her heartbeat. When she finally stops, her paper is covered in bold, black lines. Imperfect, yet alive. Ryozan looks at her work and smiles. You have found your breath in the brush, he says. Aiko bows deeply. For the first time, her bow isn't just gesture. It is gratitude. She realizes that focus is not sharpness but softness, not control but surrender. The ink stains her fingers, but she feels lighter than ever before. In silence, she watches the ink dry, like stillness itself taking shape. That night, Aiko walks through the quiet courtyard. Crickets sing and moonlight pools on the stone path. She thinks of the brush, the breath, the silence. The temple feels like a mirror now, reflecting every shift within her mind. She kneels beside the pond again, tracing her reflection with a fingertip. Her face is the same, yet different. No longer restless, but awake. She whispers softly, when I breathe, I see. In the distance, the temple bell rings once, deep and resonant. The sound fades into the wind, and she realizes focus was never something to gain. It was always here, beneath the noise. The morning is bright and crisp. Aiko sits by a low wooden table, her schoolbooks spread before her. The same textbooks that once felt heavy now seem light in her hands. She recalls Ryozan's words, when you study, just study. The temple is quiet, filled only with the distant hum of cicadas and the soft rustle of leaves. She opens her notebook, writes a single word, and pauses to breathe. Every movement, turning a page, lifting a pen, becomes deliberate. There's no rush, no pressure, just clarity unfolding line by line. For the first time, her mind doesn't wander. It flows as if her studies themselves have become a meditation. Meditation. Ryozan observes from the doorway as Aiko studies. He doesn't interrupt. His silence speaks louder than words. After some time, he approaches and places a teacup beside her. How do you feel? He asks. Aiko smiles faintly. Peaceful, she says, but I've done less than usual. He chuckles softly. Less is more when it is whole. She looks at him, puzzled. He gestures toward her notebook, each word written cleanly, mindfully. When the mind is divided, time fragments. When it's whole, time expands. She looks down and realizes the pages are filled with understanding, not haste. The work feels effortless, natural. She's not chasing focus anymore. She's living it. As days pass, Aiko creates her own rhythm. She studies in cycles, 40 minutes of focus, 10 minutes of silence. During breaks, she walks in the garden, counting her breaths, feeling each step as part of her learning. She discovers that stillness nourishes study, like the pause between notes giving shape to a song. Her thoughts sharpen naturally, her memory deepens. She realizes she doesn't need to conquer her distractions. She only needs to see them clearly, then return, again and again, to what is present. The effort that once drained her now fills her with quiet energy. For the first time, she enjoys learning. One evening, as the sun sinks behind the mountains, Aiko studies beneath a lantern's gentle light. The air hums with crickets and the faint echo of the temple bell. Her pen glides across the page effortlessly. When she pauses, she realizes she no longer feels tired. The mind that once fought itself now feels vast and spacious. She smiles, whispering, "So, this is focus." The lantern flickers and she looks up at the stars emerging above the roof tiles. In that quiet moment, she senses that true study isn't about adding more hours. It's about being fully awake within the ones you already have. The next morning, Ryozan finds Eiko sweeping the courtyard again, humming quietly to herself. "You've learned to study," he says. Aiko looks up, smiling. "I've learned to be here." He nods. "That is study." She bows deeply. "Thank you, master." He waves a hand dismissively. "Don't thank me. Thank the silence that taught you." The bell rings in the distance, and a flock of birds rises into the sky. Aiko watches them, her breath moving in sync with their wings. In her stillness, she feels a quiet joy. One that comes not from finishing something, but from truly beginning. Night descends over the temple, heavy with the scent of rain. Aiko sits inside her room, preparing for an upcoming school examination. Books are spread neatly before her, candlelight trembling beside them. Yet outside, thunder murmurs and wind rattles the paper doors. She opens her notebook, begins to write, but the candle flickers wildly, and her old thoughts begin to stir. The pressure of success, the fear of failure, the craving to be perfect, all return like ghosts she thought she had left behind. Her chest tightens. She closes her eyes, remembering the still pond, the breath, the brush. "Be the sky," she whispers to herself. Not the cloud. The wind howls, but this time she doesn't move. The storm grows louder. The candle gutters, threatening to die. Aiko's phone, tucked deep in her bag, begins to buzz faintly, a message from her classmates. For a moment, her focus wavers. Her eyes drift toward the sound. The old pull of distraction returns, familiar and seductive. She hesitates, then closes her eyes. Slowly, she exhales, letting the temptation pass like a drifting cloud. She reaches instead for her pen, and the sound of rain replaces the phone's vibration. The storm outside continues, but inside, another kind of storm settles into silence. Ryozan's voice echoes in her memory. "When you return to the breath, even chaos bows." Hours pass. The storm softens into gentle rain. Aiko studies steadily, her handwriting precise and deliberate. But fatigue begins to blur her thoughts. Doubt seeps in quietly. "What if I forget everything when I return home?" she thinks. "What if peace only lives here?" She stares at the page, uncertain. Then she remembers Ryozan's teaching. Stillness isn't a place. It's a way of seeing. She lifts her gaze toward the window. Beyond the rain, faint light from the moon pierces through. She smiles softly. The silence of the temple is not separate from the world. It's within her. She writes again, this time with gentle certainty. The night deepens. Aiko closes her notebook and leans back, eyes half shut. She listens. No wind, no thunder, only the soft murmur of water dripping from the eaves. She feels her heartbeat slow, her breath steady. In that stillness, she senses something vast inside her, an awareness untouched by thought. It is the same silence that filled the meditation hall, the same space she glimpsed in every brushstroke. Her mind is clear, like the surface of a pond after rain. She realizes that focus isn't a skill she gained. It's a home she returned to. A single candle flickers beside her, its flame unwavering, echoing the calm within. When dawn arrives, the storm has passed. The courtyard glistens with rain, the pines dripping silver in the new light. Aiko steps outside, her notebook in hand. Ryozan waits by the gate, watching her quietly. She bows deeply. "You found your focus," he says. She shakes her head gently. No, master. I stopped looking for it. He smiles. Then you have truly learned. The bell rings in the distance, its sound rolling through the mist. Aiko looks toward the mountains, breathing deeply. The day feels open, limitless. Within her, calm flows effortlessly. Like air through a bamboo flute, like dawn through the heart. The morning of her departure arrives quietly. Mist gathers over the mountains as Aiko stands before the temple gate with her small bag. The same road that once brought her here now feels different. Softer, lighter. She turns to Master Ryozan, bowing deeply. Thank you for teaching me, she says. He smiles gently. The mountain teaches all who listen, he replies. A breeze stirs his robes as he adds, carry silence wherever you go. The world will always try to steal it, but it cannot unless you give it away. She nods, understanding. The bell rings one last time, low and resonant. Its echo follows her down the path, mingling with the sound of her steady breath. The bus winds through the mountain roads, descending toward the city. Aiko gazes out the window, watching clouds part over the peaks. The sound of the engine hums like a slow chant. Her phone rests quietly beside her. It no longer demands attention. In her reflection, she sees both the student she was and the stillness she has become. The closer she gets to the city, the louder life becomes. Cars, billboards, people rushing, but something within her remains untouched. She takes a slow breath, smiles faintly, and whispers to herself, stillness travels. The city unfolds before her, bright and noisy, yet somehow beautiful, peaceful. Back in her bedroom, Aiko sets her school bag on the floor. The same desk waits for her, same books, same window, but the energy feels transformed. The noise of the city filters through the glass, yet it no longer disturbs her. She arranges her textbooks neatly, lights a small candle, and takes one steady breath. Then she begins to study. Her pen moves smoothly, without strain. Focus comes easily, as natural as breathing. Hours pass unnoticed. The girl who once drowned in distraction now floats effortlessly in clarity. Her mother opens the door quietly, smiling to see her daughter peaceful, absorbed and glowing with quiet joy. Weeks later, Aiko sits in the classroom once again. The exam paper lies before her. Around her, students rush through questions, pencils scratching frantically. She takes one breath, feeling the air move in and out, remembering the temple bell, the pine trees, the sound of the brush. The noise fades. She writes her answers calmly, one word at a time. The moment stretches, slow and boundless. When she finishes, she sets down her pen, smiling. The test no longer feels like a battle. It's simply another place to practice stillness. Outside, sunlight filters through the window, dust motes floating in the golden air like quiet blessings. That evening, Aiko walks home under a sky washed clean by rain. The city hums around her, yet she moves through it like wind through it. Untouched, unhurried. She pauses on a bridge, watching the river shimmer beneath the streetlights. The water flows endlessly, reflecting the lights above. She remembers Ryozan's words. When the mind is still, time expands. She closes her eyes and breathes. The sound of the world becomes a single, unified rhythm. Traffic, footsteps, wind, breath. All one. She opens her eyes, smiling softly. Focus is no longer something to chase. It is simply the way she lives.